Welcome to Faith on the Road, insights from Majority World Voices for the Global Church, a podcast by scholar leaders.
Welcome, y'all, to Faith on the Road. My name is Christopher Hayes. I'm the president of Scholar Leaders, and accompanying me is Scholar Leaders Vice President for Leader Formation, Dr. Evelyn Reynolds. Evelyn, I am glad that we finally get to do an episode together.
Wow, this is delightful.
Well, it is delightful because today Evelyn and I have the distinct pleasure of being joined by our friends, Dr. Valentyn and Luba Syniy. Valentyn and Luba serve at Traviski Christian Institute in Ukraine, which is presently located in Kyiv, although it was formerly in the city of Kherson until their campus was destroyed by the Russian siege of that city in 2022. At Traviski Christian Institute, TCI, Luba is a professor of English, and Valentyn serves as the president. Furthermore, Valentyn is a scholar leader, a pastor, and he's the author of the new book, Serving God Under Siege, How War Transformed a Ukrainian Community. Serving God Under Siege is this stirring memoir of Valentyn and Luba's first year in the full-scale Russian war. The book's being published by Eerdmans, which is the sponsor of this episode, and it's going to hit stores in October, although you can pre-order it now. So Valentyn, Luba, it is wonderful to have you here on the Faith on the Road podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. For us, it's a pleasure to be with you and with your people who hear or watch this video or podcast. Thank you.
Well, you are most welcome. And I was actually just thinking that the title of this Scholar Leaders podcast, Faith on the Road, feels particularly apt for this episode between the four of us, since we did quite a long road trip together in Ukraine earlier this year, visiting Kyiv and Kherson, among other cities, and working together on the book that we are now writing together on wartime theology. But I'm very happy that we can have this conversation together without road noise or craning our necks over car seats, although I do understand that air alarms have been starting and stopping, and I do hope that they do not interrupt us unduly. But with that, let's get started. I think that a good place to begin would be by sharing a bit of the backstory of this war and also of your family's history of faith. And so, Evelyn, do you perhaps want to ask Valentyn our first question?
Yeah, Valentyn, I cannot forget the moments of listening to you tell your grandparents' story as we were driving out of Kyiv. It reminds me how Ukrainian Christians have suffered many times and that the current conflict is only one iteration in that long history. I was wondering if you could tell us those stories of your family in relation to this history and sort of give the listeners a bit of an introduction via your own family background.
Yeah, thank you, Evelyn, and thank you, Christopher. Yes, I have a really great story about my grandparents, and I have a couple pictures, by the way. And the story of many Ukrainians, it's connect not only with faith, but connect with migration. Because I don't know, it's possible to see or not, but my grandparents born in Russian Empire, and because famine migrate to Ukraine. It happens before Second War, and my grandparents in father line live in Ukraine in agriculture family and connect with military. In Ukrainian history, it's Kazakh. It's something similar with cowboy, but people who love freedom and involved in agriculture business. And my family have history of migration, and after Second War, part of my family, especially this family without nationality, because my relatives have not correct nationality. and because this not have in certificate of born information about nationality. And in second word, my grandparents was kept for Germany and like prisoner and stay in captivity. And one of my aunt born in captivity. And after war finished, it's like my grand mom and her sister was in captivity in Germany. And after war finished, come back to Ukraine. And by the way, only one of my grandmom have letter from German government for say, excuse me, for Germany makes so trouble for my family, but three sisters didn't have any apologies. And this is like a story of war and story of migration. And some my people from my family was migrated to Siberia and not come back to Ukraine any time after this. But if talk about my faith, my family grows in Soviet Union regime, in communist regime, and have a lot of pressure and a lot of persecution for faith. And I remember, for example, couple story in my life, how one day I'm sit with my siblings in a big room with my parents, and my parents reading the Bible. And why one time my father stop and say, someone watch for us through windows. And he say, it looks like it's someone from KGB or maybe connect with KGB. And he stopped. And I remember this story of faith because for my grandparents and for my parents, it's not easy being Christian, evangelical Christian in communist regime, because communist regime really against Christians, especially evangelical Christian. Yeah, this is like part of my story because my family have connection with migration and pressure of religious question.
I mean, thank you, Valentyn, for pulling back the curtain on your family's experience of forced migration due to environmental factors, in this case, famine, the experience of being held in Nazi camps. I don't know that a lot of Americans realize that when we talk about the role that the Soviets played in World War II fighting the Nazis, it was disproportionately Ukrainian soldiers that were fighting that war. And then your family going on to live under the scrutiny of KGB surveillance. It's quite a legacy of faith and faithfulness that you've inherited. But I wonder if you could tell us about how you personally then came to make that faith and faithfulness your own. Can you tell us about maybe your early encounter with Christ, or perhaps the moment in which you first felt called to ministry by Jesus?
Thank you for these questions. Yes, I'm said before I'm grows from believers family, and in my understanding, life is like black and white because you live in underground church and all society, because communist regime not build relation with people who part of church, and because this you live in isolation. And after Soviet Union collapse or Soviet Union regime die, Christians have opportunity to work, to education, to travel, to buy car and different stuff. And in this time, what I understand, and this is my really young adult time, I really teenager and young adult, and I understand some Christian, my friends and family of my friends have temptation with this new opportunity, with this new comfort, because in Soviet Union regime, you live in isolation and you visit church. And now Christians have new opportunity, and some people not go through this temptation. And my biggest temptation in this time, it's build faith very hypocritic, because sometimes you think I want visit church and be nice Christian in church, and I really want be very famous with my teenagers friend in university or in college. And you build two type of life: Christian's life and different type of life with your friend. And this is my temptation. And Jesus find me in my world, in my Hippocratic world, because what I'm understanding this time, I'm studying in college in electric engineer department, and in last year I'm see how many my friends destroyed life because live not in godly life, and I'm understand it's not chance gods of your parents be your grandfather. You need relations, and this is my my road with God.
Thank you, Valentyn. That's a powerful story of Christ coming to you in a Christian family, but speaking to you personally and calling you. I wonder then, how did you go from that initial stage of learning to integrate your life into Christ to being involved in theological education? What was your journey through theological education to being the president of TCI, to being a leader in a seminary?
Thank you. After I'm graduating this college in electric engineer, I'm moved to north of Russia and work in Canadian oil company. And this Canadian oil company built some buildings, and I work like electric engineer in this area. It's really cold. I remember some days -40. It's really tough area, and I have really good money. And in the same time, I was in this Canadian company in north of Russia, and my father same days in Kherson, and he involved in starting new church in Kherson, because in this time many new churches open, and many people stopped with the churches, and not enough leaders in churches. And I remember I visit Ukraine in time of Christmas, and my father and my mom start talk with me and say, maybe you not live to north of Russia and will be with us, help father in youth ministry. For me, it's huge challenge, because if I'm in that time, it's approximately 90 years old, and of course you won't have good salary. And I make decisions stay with father and involved in a youth ministry, and I'm really want to be in a pastor ministry. And in same years, maybe 1 years later, in Kherson opened this small seminary for south of Ukraine in our city, TCI, Traviski Christian Institute. And I am thinking about theological education only like tools for pastor ministry. I'm not believe in education at this time and Christian's education, and I understand Christian education need only for pastor training how preach. This is the only reason. Maybe second reason, understand how use Bible. And Christians education only for two of these tools need, and this all. Of course, after I'm studying, I'm go for this temporal типа изменения. Changes, yeah, maybe changes. Because in first year, every or maybe most of people who study in bachelor's program in first year, people understand I know everything and I know everything better than professor. And in second years, usually you have huge challenge with your face because you understand something about Old Testament, something about New Testament, and you understand something different. You have a crisis in your face. And of course, this happens with me and with my friends who start. And in second years, usually think, oh, maybe I'm not interested. Go to church and be involved in ministry again. Maybe I make something different. And in third and fourth year, usually people who study in bachelor's program grows in phase and mature in phase and understand why you believe and how you believe and how you use education for glory of God. Because sometimes people not understand doxology from education, or people not understand how you can glory of God from your mind, from your theology. And yes, I'm finished TCI and I'm married with Luba. And after this, and involved in church. And I'm dream only in the pastor ministry. I understand God called me for pastor ministry. And a couple years later, maybe 6 years later, previous president in TCI, his son have illness, and this illness no chance to be ill in Ukraine. And this gentleman, Sergey, make decision to immigrate to Romania because in that time in Romania he can give enough medicine help in Romania. And board of trustees invite me be a temporal president, and the previous president invited me be temporal president. And now I'm temporal president for 19 years.
One of the things that stands out as you tell your story is the way in which you did not go looking for leadership responsibility in the church. It seems like people kind of had to keep pulling you and dragging you and coaxing you into ministry. And yet you keep faithfully allowing yourself to be dragged along into places that require the exercise of greater and greater leadership.
And I won't say thank you in this moment for scholarly because if you're involved in full-time ministry of leadership, usually you didn't have chance for full-time study. And I'm really thank you for scholar leaders and for your supporter who helped me study part-time in these years for finished my PhD in Ukraine. Thank you for your
Well, of course, it's scholar leader's privilege to be your friend and have been your friend for a number of years. For those who don't know how scholar leaders tends to start relationships with theological leaders, it very often is through a PhD scholarship. And so scholar leaders had the opportunity to invest in Valentyn's formation in that way, and also through some of the executive consultancy work that our team does in what we call the Vital Sustainability Initiative. And so there was some relational backdrop to scholar leaders and TCI. We had known each other, we had worked together, but certainly nothing had prepared us, and certainly nothing could have prepared Valentyn and Luba for what happened in February in 2024. And so, or 2022, excuse me. So I wonder, Valentyn, if you can now take us to that fateful week at the end of February of 2022, when you are in a position of enormous responsibility and leadership and authority at the head of TCI, and you've seen the Russian forces converging, and then the full-scale invasion begins. Can you tell us the story of what happened when you had to leave your seminary to safety away from the Russian invasion of Kherson?
It's hard questions for me. In emotional and in rational and in moral dilemma. This question's not finished. Of course, it's if talk only about narrative, it's more easy because TCI thinking about our evacuation and build evacuation plan. I think not many organizations prepare evacuation plan, but TCI worked these questions more than 2 months, maybe approximately 2 months, and a couple of weeks before, because a lot of information, especially from Western churches, Western news, Western politicians talk about potential war. And because this, our team started work for prepare evacuations plan. And I have one friend, I can't tell his name, and he consulted us a lot in evacuation plan. And a couple of weeks before war, I sent letter for our partners and then send information about city, in what city TCI planning evacuation if war is starting. Yes, and yeah, I remember this day of start full scale war. It's this day changed a lot. But this is narrative. But if talk about my biggest dilemma, it's questions of ministry and calling, and questions of leave or maybe stay in a time of stress, in time of war. And this dilemma not understandable for me in my personal sanctification, in my personal belief, maybe, because in mentality of churches who live nearby Orthodox, or maybe Orthodox influence, and churches with underground, usually people think if you have some
Suffering?
yes, in mentality of churches with influence for Orthodox mentality, and churches after persecution, underground churches suffer have something holy. If you go from suffer, your soul grows in holiness, something like this. And because this leave from area with suffer, sometime understanding like something wrong. And of course, I understand this situation in different route, because in after 3 years, I understand my decision leave Kherson with our staff, with our student. It's help a lot people, many people, and help many churches in South, and have many people and community. And my father make decision. My father make decision stay with George, and he stay all occupation, and he helped a lot. And I know at least 4 or 5, maybe more than 4 or 5 pastors stay in Kherson all this time of occupation, and change life of thousands of people and help a lot. And this dilemma, how Christians need to make decision about living or maybe stay in time of suffer. It's really huge questions for me, and not understandable for me in my personal relation. I understand for institutional, I make correct and the right decision, because if TCI not leave, TCI was die, like organization. And the difference between churches and education center, it's connect with missions, because church connect with people nearby this community, and the pastor and churches really need to build this relation and help and answer for questions and need for people who in suffer. But Ministry of Education of school of seminary, university, first missions goal is build or prepare new generation leaders, and very important in different place to prepare pastor for new reality, for new broken world, and because this in some dilemma, some people need leave and some people need stay, and usually this connect with our relation with God. And sometimes people who live nearby us not understand all of this decision. Yeah, I don't know. I answer for your question, but yeah, sometimes you ask one questions and people answer for different question.
I'm really grateful. You've, I think, exposed for us and for our listeners the poignancy of the decision that you had to make to stay or to leave. And the fact that this was a decision that your family, that you and your father answered in different ways, that you were faithful in different ways, you by leaving, your father by staying, is a really powerful illustration of the way in which God calls his people differently in order to be able to meet the needs of the church and the world in different ways. Now, in a minute, I'm going to circle back to your father and going to ask you to share about how his ministry has changed over the last few years. But before we do that, I want to continue to follow a little bit of the story of what happens after you make the decision to leave. So you come to the conclusion that there is a real risk of the Russians invading. You make the wise decision to build an evacuation plan.
Mm-hmm.
You wake up in the morning of February 24th. You can hear the sound of artillery in the distance. You get messages that say that the war has started. And you begin to make plans to get your community out of Kherson.
Yes.
Tell us the story of what happened.
Our team prepared this evacuation plan, but sometimes evacuation plan not work in real war, because, for example, our seminary have agreements with bus driver, who can help us in take and lead people in a place, peaceful place in the western part of Ukraine. And most of this driver
Cancelled.
canceled this contract and say not ready take people and bring outside of Kherson, because this TCI takes some money for our um, stabilization fund, and buy one bus and take some students, some youth from churches, and live and in these people and for different area. And in 3 days, TCI help relocate around 70 people. And after 3 days, our team try go to Kherson, and in this day, Kherson was occupied, and no chance take new people. And because this TCI change ministry for 9 months, and mostly next 9 months working humanitarian project, send some medicine stuff in occupation city, and work underground with different churches, with different volunteer to help send food supplied and different stuff for occupation city, and work with churches together. And second, our ministry, it was in Ivano-Frankivsk, and our team really appreciate and sense what church in Ivano-Frankivsk help us and collaborate with us to start education center in Ivano-Frankivsk. And this 2.5 years from March 2022 to August 2024, TCI lead different education program in this area in Ivano-Frankivsk, and prepare pastor, because after war start, many churches lose pastor in different reason. Some pastor need evacuate and go outside of country. Some pastor was kept by Russian army, and because this for our church is a huge challenge for prepare new pastors, and because this in one area and part of our staff work with evacuation and in humanitarian project, and the part of our staff work with prepare pastors and leader for churches in new reality. And this is from March 2022 to August 2024. And in August 2024, TCI relocate second time and relocate to Kiev. And now this is in Kiev office. TCI found some new location, because our location was, in that time, our location was destroyed completely. And in this location, TCI start new academic year in 2024, and almost lead education work almost same like before war. Yes, and if talking about what happens in Kherson, Russian occupied our city and take our books and destroyed our books for put our book for garbage place. And this is, for example, pictures from my office. It's crucified feet of Jesus, and Russian take these pictures and bring for garbage place.
I mean, one of the things that that I have learned watching you as a leader, and one of the things that comes out so clearly in your truly gripping memoir, Serving God Under Siege, is the way in which you so elastically keep responding to the next challenge that comes up ahead. Not saying, well, this isn't what I do, but instead saying, how can I be faithful in this new moment? And the way that your faithfulness requires you to keep shifting and doing the next new thing and rising to those next challenges is thoroughly inspiring. In your memoir, you tell the story in such gripping terms of scrambling to find new transport to get out of the city, of getting this broken down, big bus that you then have to figure out how to get started again, and it keeps breaking down as you're trying to make your way west to Ivano-Frankivsk. And yet, when you arrive, and as soon as you get the people settled, the first thing you do is you buy another van and you turn around to go back. You pivot and you figure out what the next thing is to do to be faithful to your community of TCI and to the community of Kherson. And then when you run up against the reality of the fact that Kherson is occupied, you then ask the next question of how to be faithful now that your city, the place that your father lives, is occupied. And so you begin doing humanitarian relief work. And yet, even in that context, you don't abandon your more fundamental vocation to train pastors, but you think different and new ways about training pastors, looking not only at what is needed in Ukraine, but indeed, what are the needs in Central Asia? Your campus is destroyed and you figure out how to build a new campus. Your library is destroyed. You figure out how to rebuild a library. You continue to figure out what the next step of faithfulness means. And that's one of the most impressive testimonies to your leadership, is that you're not following a pre-made plan about what it means to be a seminary president. You are listening to God to figure out what it means to take the next step forward and to bring your community along with you. And your father had to do the same thing in a very different context. Evelyn and I have had the privilege of meeting your father and staying in his church, and meeting your mother, Sergei and Luba. And we've gotten to see the exquisite work that they've done. And their work has really changed since February of 2022. So can you tell me about how their ministry has changed in the last few years?
Yeah, a ministry of my father and church changed a lot. And first, what I want to say, usually people who go through war, who go through captivity, usually not open or ready to talk about this. And maybe this is our work of brain, because God create us to our brain forget about some really horrible story. And because this, I know my father usually not want to talk about some this horrible experience. But yes, if talk about my father, he go through this occupation and really faithful, and many, it's thousands of people visit church and ask food and water and shelves, because Russian bombing our city a lot. And during of occupation, Russian soldiers and Russian officer a couple time check church of our church in Kherson, and this, yeah, emotionally not easy. And after occupation, maybe some Americans remember, maybe not, but Russian destroyed Kakhovka dam, and it's a really huge flood, and this flood destroyed part of our city. And in all of these challenges, my father and my mom involved in ministry for people and work a lot. Of course, I've talked, and some else pastor work in Kherson with similar ministry, and of course, people and Christians leader help one another in this extreme situation. And of course, if you talk about leadership in this extreme challenge in this really broken world, some ministry and some understanding of leadership changes. Usually, it's mostly not pastor care leadership. It's mostly like firefighter ministry. You need make really quick decision, and you must make this quick decision for long term, because you live for 3.5 years in constant extreme situation. Yeah, and this is challenge. And I remember a couple months ago, one Ukrainian seminary invited me for prepare class for master level student about leadership, and I'm start learn, and I'm trying to understand model of Christian's leadership in Old Testament, and I'm check couple time Old Testament books and try to understand leadership. And before war, I'm not understand this, but I think if talk about leadership in Old Testament, usually it's leadership like answer for challenge. If talk about New Testament, it's sometimes different. It's connected with missions and different questions. But in the most questions in Old Testament, leadership connect with extreme situation, and leaders is people who make decision and and make responsible for some situation. And I'm thinking people who stay in Kherson, in Zaporozhye, Melitopol, Kharkov, most of these people of work or live like leader in Old Testament, because in Old Testament not many people interested in be leaders. Now be leaders very interesting for people, but not because responsibility, or not because change situation or help people, only because this salary or famous or this second level part of leadership. But real Old Testament leadership, it's leadership in stress situation. And this is what people do in occupation and in front line. And I'm not sure, but I think it's very similar in the situation, different part, not only in Ukraine. Yeah, maybe this is some of stuff happens with people like my father and Kherson. And of course, these people work mostly with not Christians, and only some small time with Christians, because huge need in community.
I mean, in our work together in the book that we've been writing, this is a theme that's come up a lot, right, Valentyn? This theme of the individual vocation and the way that God calls individuals to be contributing to the needs of the kingdom around the world. And the way that that calling looks really different for different people. And some of the people whom God calls individually and uniquely, God calls to love Ukraine. And so for global believers who do feel called to love Ukraine, who do feel called to, perhaps from a certain geographical distance, to stand in faithful solidarity with Christians in Ukraine, what guidance can you give? What does it look like for those of us who do feel called by God to you, to be faithful siblings?
Of course, for people who want help Ukrainians, maybe in my personal perspective, I'm involved with people, be partners in organization. I'm, of course, and help in our project with the pair leaders, or maybe with different seminary. And of course, I will be happy if someone understand or hear our voice like Ukrainians and read my books about my experience. If talk about particularly our situation with Traviski Christian Institute, our big needs it's connect with our project with Rebuild Library, because our library was completely destroyed, and our library was have 30,000 books because war. Russian left around 20 books this set after use our books. And of course, I want to say thank you for Lincoln Christian University, because Lincoln Christian University is first school who stay with us and send a lot of books for us. And the second, of course, it's scholars at Theological Books Network who be with us and send some new books, and some churches from Illinois and California will stay with us. But for us, it's very important have location, because all of our staff and all of our professors now refugee. And for us, it's very important to have some location to find our home, because our home was broken, our home was destroyed, to be in ministry. And if someone can be partners with us, I'm open to and invite you be our friends in this project. Yes, if you're interested and pray about it, of course, please pray about us, because now every night Russians send approximately 700 drones every night. And today maybe you hear this sound from drones. And our soldiers work really excellent, because shoot approximately 95% of drones. But what does it mean? It means approximately every night around 30, 35 drones go through this system, anti-missile system. And if every night approximately 20, 30 drones go from this line, it means many people die every night. And of course, please pray about our safety. And Jesus saved us. Yes, this will be very important to us.
Yeah. I want to make sure that I sum up that for people who do walk away from this podcast asking, what is the next thing that we can do? The last thing you heard Valentyn say there is please be praying for them, for their safety, that notwithstanding the excellent work of defense that the Ukrainian army has been doing, drones get through in the dozens every night and people die and damage is done. This might have fallen off of the radar of Western news, but things are getting harder, not easier. So pray for their safety. Also, notice that you were invited to learn more, to understand more. And I would encourage you that one of the best ways you can start learning more and understanding more is by reading Serving God Under Siege. Please pre-order that on Amazon, on the Eerdmans website. We want to understand our friends on their own terms, not in terms mediated by Western media or by whatever narrative you happen to have heard or built for yourself locally. Let's listen to Valentyn's voice and the voice of Ukrainian theologians on their own terms. And third, you heard that they are building a new home for themselves and their community on a site in Kyiv. At their seminary, they have a number of students who are there as seminarians and refugees at the same time. They don't have another home to go to. They live in the dorms on the campus, and that's where they stay. They're building new home there. And if you want to be able to contribute to their building project, then please go ahead. We are going to link to their website, and you'll be able to give to that work directly as well.
Yes, and because you start talking about program, you need to understand our school, first school opened program about chaplain ministry in government level and peace building resolution. It's very important time of war. Our pastor can be trained to be effective pastors in army, in hospital, in different area. Yeah, and pray about this people because it will be first 30 pastors who will be start in this year in official government program because some students study in different program, but this first who can be after this program have a job in our Ukrainian army like chaplain.
I think that's a great thing to bring up. Thank you, Valentyn, for mentioning your new chaplaincy program. It's a fabulous illustration, once again, of the same flexible, responsive, dynamic leadership that you've evinced over the course of this war, of asking what's the next thing that we can do to respond to the needs of the church and of the society of Ukraine. So thank you for that, Valentyn.
Thank you.
We're not quite done with our podcast yet. One of the things that we like to incorporate at the end of every one of our podcasts is what we call a lightning round. This is when we shoot a few answers at you quickly. We're asking you to respond off the top of your head with a short 1 to 2 sentence reply. So you haven't been prepped for this. We're just going to shoot the questions at you, and we're excited to hear your quick response. It's a way for us to get to know a little bit more of Valentyn, the person. So, Evelyn, you want to send the first lightning bolt at Valentyn?
Sure, yeah. Valentyn, what is a saying from Ukraine that provides insight into how you live life?
Maybe in my part of Ukraine, maybe the most often I am here don't have $100, but have 100 friends. This is maybe the most famous in my home city. And second, maybe in my friends area, it's only fools don't change your mind. Their mind. You can be open to change.
I really liked only fools don't change their mind. That's fabulous.
And I liked
Evelyn,
the first one because it reminded me of visiting Kherson with you, Valentyn, and the friends, coming as we drove down those streets together. That was beautiful. Yeah.
Yes, it was a very slow drive through Kherson because Valentyn had to stop every 30 feet to jump out of the car to hug people. More than 100 friends this man has. Evelyn, give him another question from our lightning round.
All right. Valentyn, what is your favorite book?
Okay, my favorite books, I'm thinking one of the, it's for Good to Great, Jim Collins. It's one
Yeah.
And maybe a second, Who Nations Fall Be Dorn, like this. I'm trying to find how this name in English. Why Nations Fails. Why Nations Fails.
Why Nations Fail and Good to Great. Those are good books.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Valentyn. Well, Valentyn, you've talked about having not $100, but 100 friends. You should certainly count us as 2 amongst your 100. And it has been a pleasure to have you here with us, mate, at least over Zoom. Luba, good to see you. Thank you for being with us. Your friendship, your partnership are gifts to us, to Evelyn and me, and certainly to scholar leaders. And we are really excited that we're going to get to connect with you again in person in a few weeks when we come to visit you in Kyiv to celebrate the dedication of the new library. So until then, friends, may the Lord bless you and keep you.